how are film festivals programmed. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain and show you the 3 major steps most film festivals take before they select a film. My name is Rudy Womack, and this is the Film Festival Guide. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I am the executive director of the Wyoming International Film Festival, and I want to use my position to help filmmakers like you. I want to demystify the film festival process, which is why today I am tackling one of the most common questions that I get. How do film festivals select their films? Now, there is no universal answer to this question. There are thousands of film festivals, and each one of them is going to have their own process. However, I am going to show you how the Wyoming International Film Festival selects our films. So much of what I am going to say isn't universal. However, it can be applied to a wide variety of film festivals, from smaller local events all the way up to the Big 5. With that said, let's get started. Step 1, initial submissions. There is a lot that goes on in the first round of submissions, so I'm going to try to break this down into some clear points. After the film's information is transferred over to a tracking document, we assign 2 programmers. These programmers are typically alumni of the film festival, which means your film is being reviewed by fellow filmmakers. Now, our primary goal at this stage is to sort out which films we think we might be interested in versus the films that we know for certain that we are not going to be interested in. Here's how it works. Our programmers will watch the film, then fill out this scorecard. This is our custom-made scorecard and helps us get a general idea of the overall quality of the film. At this stage, we're not interested in the film's score, but rather these recommendations right here, which I will explain in a moment. Also, real quick, this is what FilmFreeway's default scorecard looks like. There are many D tier, C tier, and even B tier festivals that use this scorecard instead. Now, if you're curious about film festival tiers, I've already made a video on the subject, link in the description below. Back to the recommendations, as you can see, there are 4, but for our purposes at YOIFF, we only use 3 of them: pass, recommend, or maybe. These recommendations are entirely based on the programmer's discretion. Once both programmers have reviewed a film, we can decide if it will move on to the next round of programming. The formula is actually pretty intuitive. If a film gets 2 thumbs up, it moves on to the second round of programming, but if it gets 2 thumbs down, well, it doesn't. Of course, there are a few different possible combinations, so I've illustrated them here for you. Basically, getting a thumbs up is a surefire way to get to the next round of programming. While a thumbs down can hurt your chances, it isn't an immediate no for a film. Again, at this point, it must be said, we are vaguely interested in a film's quality, and we are much more interested in a film's character, whether or not we feel that it is going to be a good fit for our film festival. Now, if these parameters feel vague or inspecific, well, that's because they are. You see, film is art. And with art, there is no definitive right or wrong answer, which is why it's important for a film festival to have a broad range of opinions on their programming team. I always strongly encourage filmmakers to research film festivals before they submit. About 2/3 of initial submissions make it to the second round of programming, but before they do, there's one last stage: genres. Our programmers fill out this list of the applicable genres that the film might fall into. This is going to be very important in our decisions down the road, which I will explain in just a bit. But before I continue on, I'd like to ask you to please give this channel a like and subscribe. 90% of you watching are not subscribed. I am the only person on YouTube doing these deep dives into film festivals, so if you like this content, please consider supporting. Thank you very much. Step 2, the great filter. Now that the films have made it to the second stage, the real programming begins. It's at this stage a third programmer, typically a senior programmer, reviews the film. This person has a lot of responsibility. They add their final score, their final recommendations, and break any ties or disagreements with the initial programmers. Now from here, I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about short films, but everything I say can, in general, be applied to features, documentaries, music videos, etc. During this second stage is when we put films into blocks based on genre or topic. If we have quite a few horror films that we like, we want to start to build a block of horror shorts. A few might get tossed out because they don't have a good score, but in general, this is when we start to build the blocks of what the festival is going to look like that year. We might put films together about a specific subject, like wildlife or outdoor sports or politics. This is why we have transient blocks that might show up one year, but then they're gone the next. At the Wyoming International Film Festival, we've had transient blocks like life and death, drama and comedy short films about death and mourning. We've had blocks about mental health, children's welfare, even creatures and curses. It changes every single year, which helps keep things fresh. But of course, our audience has certain expectations of what they can find at our film festival, so we also have staple blocks, your dramas, your comedies, your horror films, things like that. The reason I'm covering all of this right now is to illustrate why a film festival might consider what the genre of a film is before they make a selection. Independent filmmakers like you might get accepted or rejected not based on just your film, but also what other films have been submitted to a festival. So we've reviewed every film, we've given them all a score, we've put them together into blocks. We should be done selecting the films, right? Well, no. There's one last stage to go before we make our official selections, and in my opinion, it is the hardest stage. Step 3, culling the herd. In our example from before, we took a lot of great horror films and we put them together inside of a block. But now, we have to consider the time. There are only so many hours in a day, and we have to build our schedule around screening times. We try to keep most screenings between 90 and 100 minutes. So what happens if we have 130 minutes of good horror films? Well, we might try and find a home for some horror films. Maybe a horror comedy gets moved into just the comedy block, for example. But when push comes to shove, some films have to go. Our programming team will meet and discuss and debate and sometimes outright argue over which films will be included. Everyone has their favorites and everyone is going to be a champion for the movies they believe should be in the festival. It's also at this stage that a wide variety of other factors might be considered, such as the film's runtime, the overall tone, the origin of the film, or even how well we think it's going to play with other films. As a matter of fact, I have identified 46 potential factors that film festival programmers are going to consider before they select or reject a film. If you would like me to do a video on these 46 factors, drop a comment below. During this final stage, the programming team has many tough choices to make about which films can be included and which films, unfortunately, won't be screening. As a filmmaker, I have been rejected more than 400 times, so I understand the pain of rejection. But as a film festival programmer, believe me, it's no easier when you're on the other side of the fence. Every year, we have to turn down films we genuinely love simply because there isn't enough time to screen them all. That's how we select films at the Wyoming International Film Festival. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. And have you ever programmed for a film festival? If you have, please drop a comment below. I would love to learn how other film festivals do their programming. I have some more videos coming up, but until then, I'll see you on the circuit.